What is good, Ninja? OJ over here from PlayerEssence, bringing you another PE news video. Today we're going to talk about something that I'm pretty much tired of talking about. I really don't feel like talking about Capcom a lot more, but I want to give a shout out to Direct Feed Games. I'll be having a discussion with him pretty soon here. I think Friday or so. We're going to be having a discussion on third-party support for the Nintendo Switch, Capcom, and a lot of other things. So make sure you follow Direct Feed Games on Twitter. I'll have a link to his channel below. But we're going to talk about Capcom again because Capcom came out with, I think it was their investor meeting, the most recent one, where they discussed the Nintendo Switch again, or at least someone asked them about hey, what's going on, and they talked about Street Fighter 2 sales in addition to the support of the Nintendo Switch. And this has been a hot button topic from many Nintendo fans, from gamers alike, and I'm going to talk about that at the very end. Trust me, I'm going to talk about that at the very end, but let's get into what they say and the different headlines that we saw across some of the most popular Nintendo sites. Now, I first saw this article on Nintendo Everything, and here is what Nintendo Everything had listed at the top of the article. They said, Capcom, Monster Hunter Double Cross Switch version is another test to evaluate our support for Switch. That's how they had it worded. Now, if you look at what the actual thing said as far as Capcom goes, here's what they actually said. The Nintendo Switch seems to be doing very well, and we look forward to further growth in its install base. Beginning with Monster Hunter Double Cross, Nintendo Switch version for Japan, we are evaluating how we support the platform in the future. Seems like a pretty standard answer. They have their next game coming up. It's Monster Hunter Double Cross in Japan. They're going to be evaluating the platform like they've been saying, like every other company says. To me, it wasn't a big deal, but when I saw the headline, I was expecting them to say Capcom says this, quote, we are looking at Monster Hunter Double Cross sales in Japan. Based on how those sales are doing and how we test out things in the market when it comes to our games, then we can evaluate what we're going to be putting on Nintendo Switch based on Monster Hunter Double Cross. That's what I was expecting. When I read that headline, I was okay, well, yeah, they're really going to see something that's what they did. But there is no sorts of that at all in the article. I'm okay, well, let's see how other Nintendo sites put this. So I went over to Go Nintendo, and Go Nintendo's headline looked like this. Capcom IR. Regional sales Ultra Street Fighter 2 evaluating Switch with Monster Hunter Double Cross. And they had the same exact thing, but they put the actual questions and the answers. And Capcom talked about how they sold 450,000 copies of Street Fighter 2 in there, and then they talked about how they're evaluating the Nintendo Switch, starting with Double Cross. They're evaluating like they've always been saying. Now, back in, I think it was April, in the financial results, Capcom said that they're going to be promoting multi-platform development and console re-releases, including the Nintendo Switch. They said console platform re-releases, including the Nintendo Switch, back in April. Now, recently, at this same investors meeting, Capcom said, hey, we're starting to prepare multiple Nintendo Switch titles. So this is when you realize that Capcom, as far as what they say, is being evaluated so intensely that American press will take what they said that absolutely contradicts what they just said. If they're evaluating for Monster Hunter Double Cross, then why would they announce Resident Evil Revelations 1 and 2 for the system? Oh, maybe because it was already planned. And why would they say we're starting to prepare multiple titles and say, oh, well, we're evaluating? So which one is it? Are you looking at Monster Hunter Double Cross and evaluating from there? Or do you already have titles that you're preparing like you just said just a little bit ago? And that's why I'm saying Capcom at this point, when it comes to them saying things, it's so scrutinized, it's looked at such with a magnifying glass because gamers still think Capcom is what they were. If I were you guys, I would put a Capcom mindset like this. They are a port company. They are a porting studio. They are no longer that AAA developer that you used to know and love in the PS2 era, where you got stuff like Beautiful Joe, you got stuff like God Hand, you got stuff like Okami, you got stuff like the quality of Resident Evil 4. You just got all of these major titles. You know why Capcom is no longer like that? Because the people who made all of those games are no longer at the company, and those people did not teach the next staff or the next generation how to make those type of games the way that you're supposed to do it. you saw it fade. Each time, whatever game it was, the quality went down and down. You saw it with Resident Evil. Now, I love Resident Evil 5, but I don't think it was quite as good as Resident Evil 4. With Resident Evil 6 being a disaster, Resident Evil Revelations better, but still not up to the level of Resident Evil 4. Resident Evil Revelations 2, what did they do with that game when it first came out? It was episodic, it was weird. That stuff would have never happened with the Capcom of the old. And we're talking about legendary figures here, guys. We have Shinji Mikami, the godfather of Resident Evil 4. We have Hideki Kamiya, the guy who was behind, heck, so many great games at Capcom's history. Devil May Cry, Okami, Beautiful Joe. He's no longer there. He didn't teach any of the staff what to do. He took all of that staff with them. That was Clover Studios and even some of the older Resident Evil staff back then. Look at everything. Kenji Inafune with Mega Man. He's no longer with the company. Hashimoto, Bayonetta 2-Do. He's no longer with the company. So everyone who's expecting Capcom to be this company that comes out and delivers so many great games, when was the last time that they did that? When was the last time that you honestly had so much confidence in Capcom? Doesn't matter what the platform, whether it's PS4, Xbox One, PC, when was the last time you had confidence in them? They did like Dragon's Dogma. I mean, what else? Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, people are already complaining about that game. Look at the PlayStation 4. Heck, when that launched in 2013, there was nothing. I think they released Strider, and they released DMC, the remake, and then what? What were all the big games? What are all the big games that Capcom is doing for the PlayStation 4, Xbox One? They got Resident Evil 7, okay, years after the consoles launched, and they turned that into a PSVR simulator with Sony's money. Let's just be honest here, that's not Resident Evil. Capcom knows good and well what they're doing with that. They took the money from Sony in order to make it more of a PlayStation VR experience with the first-person view when they knew good and well Resident Evil is all about the cool-looking characters and seeing them, the third-person shooting with Resident Evil 4, with Resident Evil 5, but even going back to the beginning ones, third person, the atmosphere, seeing your character. It was all about like Jill Valentine, Chris Redfield, Leon S. Kennedy, and when you go into first person and when you start talking about VR and all that, you lose all of that. I don't even know who the main character is in Resident Evil 7. Even after I played the demo, I'm like, I still didn't know or remember who it is. It's not legendary. It's not memorable. It's just PSVR. First person PSVR. They're taking Sony's money. This is something Capcom has done. Heck, they pretty much shunned all of their fan base when it comes to Street Fighter because they're like, okay, well, we need to make a new Street Fighter. We don't have the money to make a Street Fighter the quality that we could make it. So let's take Sony's money and make Street Fighter 5. And obviously it was not ready to go when it launched. They just wanted to get it out for the Capcom Pro Tour, whatever the case was, you know, and they had to add stuff in, which is fine. They already said that. They detailed that. But that's what I'm saying. Compared to Street Fighter 4, that launched with such fanfare and tons of characters and everything that you were expecting on multiple platforms, even came to the 3DS, it did very well. They mortgaged all of that for Sony's money right there so they can get the game out. This is Capcom. This is the new Capcom, guys. The dudes that made Capcom great are no longer there. Your expectations and your standards for this company need to come to reality. They're never going to be what they were beforehand. They're never going to be that, and I've accepted them for who they are. A port studio that will occasionally make a good game every now and then based on some of their IPs. But pretty much the majority of their IPs are just sitting there doing nothing. Whether it's Devil May Cry, Bionic Commando, so many great IPs that they have. Beautiful Joe, Okami, just sitting there doing nothing. You know why? Because Capcom doesn't have the horses in order to make those games. If Capcom really wants to be back to where they were, they need to make sure that they hire the company and the studios that made those games. They should hire Tango for the next Resident Evil. They should hire Platinum Games for the next Devil May Cry. If you want Capcom to be what it is, they need to actually return to the developers that made those games great. But they're never going to because Capcom doesn't want to invest the money in order to do so. So everyone who treats Capcom and gets so mad and angry with this fake outrage when it comes to Capcom, because that's what it is. It's fake outrage because Capcom has been this way for so long. There's no need to get mad over what this company has become, okay? Because they've been this way for a long time. Alright, they didn't support PS4 and Xbox One with all these games PS4 and Xbox One didn't get all this support. It took years. And even then, look at what happens when they supported the PS4 and Xbox One with Resident Evil Revelations 2. That was a mess with all its episodic stuff. They should have just made it all right on there and got DMC beforehand. There was literally nothing, you know, literally nothing. And it did take them a while. Yes, Resident Evil 7, but once again, PSVR title, not a real Resident Evil 7. So Capcom is exactly who Capcom is at this point. They are no longer that big, amazing AAA developer that you can count on. I don't see why people try to continue to hold them to that regard and get so angry when it comes to things. Obviously, they have Monster Hunter World coming out, but how many years after 2018? You know, how many years after as far as PS4 and Xbox One goes? You know, and they've been making Monster Hunter, right? I mean, they do Monster Hunter. They've been making a lot of those when it comes to the 3DS. But that's about it. That's about it when it comes to Capcom. So let me know what you guys think about this. I personally am looking at the news and I'm like, okay, well, Capcom has already stated that they're preparing multiple Nintendo Switch versions of games. Not sure how they're evaluating it based on Monster Hunter when they've already stated that they are preparing multiple games, and then they've already said back in April that they are putting out multiple games, or they are going to promote multi-platform development, and they already announced Resident Evil Revelations 1 and 2 before Monster Hunter Double Cross even came out. And so Capcom, like I said, is maybe a confused company, or at least that's how it's looking, but I can tell you exactly what Capcom is. They're a port studio that will port everything. As long as the Switch continues to sell and do what it's doing, they will continue to port all of their games, regardless of Monster Hunter Double Cross, regardless of Resident Evil Revelations 1 and 2. This studio ported over a Disney collection to the Xbox One. A Disney collection. That demographic is not trying to play Disney, okay? But they ported it over there anyway. As long as the system sells, Capcom will continue porting. Heck, I remember back in the Wii U era, when I think it was the PS3, Xbox 360, PS4, Xbox One were getting a bunch of Resident Evil ports. Nintendo fans were like, why isn't it coming to the Wii U? We want these Resident Evil ports, these old Resident Evil ports as well. That's how times have changed. Now we're getting old Resident Evil ports, or older, one from 2013 and then one from 2015. Why are you porting old Resident Evil games? It's so funny, and I swear to you, people were complaining and crying that we weren't getting older Resident Evil ports on the Wii U. Now they're complaining and crying that we are getting Resident Evil ports. Anyway, fake outrage, like I said. The more games, the better. I don't care if people want to port those. People are saying 2015 is too old for ports now. So yeah, guys, it is what it is. Do I love the fact of what Capcom's become? Absolutely not. Am I going to stress and lose more hair on my head because of Capcom and throw a big rage online and make multiple videos bashing Capcom and bashing anyone who says, no, this is just how Capcom is? Of course I'm not going to. That would be a silly thing to do, because Capcom is who Capcom is, and no amount of complaining and crying will change that. Heck, we haven't even gotten a Mega Man game. Where's Mega Man at? We've been crying for Mega Man forever. I'm done port begging and crying to Capcom for things. Just play their old games, I guess, if you want to, on their old systems. Trust me, there's a Devil May Cry collection. Just go play those. Go get all the achievements. You know what I'm saying? Go play the older games. Just relive those moments, because, in my opinion, Capcom is no longer that company that they used to be. Just based on their actions, based on what we've seen from them, the games that they're releasing, even when they try hard. Resident Evil 6 put a lot of budget into that. Devil May Cry put a lot of budget into that. Even when they try, it's not as good as what it used to be. So they just don't have the horses anymore. They don't have the talent anymore. And Capcom is no longer that publisher that we used to know and love, although they can have some flashes every now and then. In my opinion, from what I see, they are definitely a step down from beforehand, but it's okay. That's who they are. That's what happens. People move on, and I'm definitely moving on from thinking that Capcom used to be that publisher, that developer like they were in the 6th generation, because that's just not who they are. That's why you see so many ports. That's why you see what they're doing. It's in their actions, not in their words. You know what I'm saying? So let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section below. I would love to hear you guys' thoughts. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Go ahead and check out the links in the description below. We've got Facebook, we've got Twitter. Go ahead and give us a like and a follow on our social media. Really helps us spread the content of PlayerEssence across the interwebs in addition to YouTube. Also, make sure you check out our Patreon page. Pledge any tier, be entered in to win some awesome prizes each month. In addition to that, we have Discord voice chat and $10 prize eShop tokens for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Splatoon 2, and more. So support PE Live and PE Arena right here on PlayerEssence. Also, make sure you hit that like button if you did like this video. Lets me know you guys want more content like this going forward in the future. And subscribe to PlayerEssence for the latest news, reviews, discussions, and more. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you ninja for the next video. Peace.